Hey, it's Juck. At number one, the most beautiful uniform in all of sport. If they brought back the gray stripes, this thing is so far out in front of everybody, you can't touch it. We are not bemoaning the noon kickoff. We are now owning it. It's a badge of honor. We're the lunatic fringe that defines our coach's legacy when it comes to this game. They don't get to define that outside the field. So we're cut from a different cloth for Ohioans. Do I want Michigan to beat Oklahoma? No way in hell. I don't know what world I'm living in. This is insane to me. And if you saw my outburst, I apologize. It's showtime now. And welcome to Juck on Bucks, the post-game show. Appreciate you so much for joining me. The Buckeyes go into Champaign, Illinois, a place that I got to tell you, like this, looking back as a kid, I always felt like this was always a tough game, tougher than it should have been. Of course, you got the 07 game, but it's even more than that, like back further than that. It always felt like a tougher game than it should have been. And Champaign always felt like bad weather, gray skies, windy. Today was none of that. It was a beautiful day in Champaign, Illinois. The Bucks get a 34-16 win, and what was a pretty odd game. It kind of had some weird ebbs and flows to it. I was streaming the game live, and I got to tell you, man, some very unhappy Buckeye fans in my chat, and we'll go over some of those reasons why. But today's game, when we put it into a little bit of perspective here, it was a 14.5-point line, and the Buckeyes covered yet again, and they have covered now, I think, every big game this year. It wasn't dominant. Maybe at times they didn't look like the number one team in the country, and they didn't play perfectly. Got some things to clean up. Is it cause for long-term concern? Maybe, maybe not for one particular thing. But I want to give you a couple quotes from Ryan Day in the post-game conference. And don't forget, this is the same Ryan Day we talked about all last week, that it appears like he is just looking consistently for something, even when everything's good, to nitpick and kind of focus on the bad or the correctable. We'll put it that way. Usually that's not how he's been. But remember last week after the Minnesota game, he comes in the press conference and calls out Bo and calls out Lincoln, things he just doesn't usually do. And that was a pretty healthy win against Minnesota. So just a couple of quick one-liners from his press conference. Good start, good energy, excellent effort, control of the game, good physical win. The line was moving guys off the ball, and we have a maturing group. So nothing like last week. It was all positive. In fact, the first question was talking about getting off to a slow start, and he immediately corrected that individual and said, I don't think we got off to a slow start at all. We had the field goal, came back with a touchdown, led 21-3 at the half. I consider a slow start 2 3-and-outs. Totally greased that individual, whoever that was. I couldn't really hear because the microphones were bad in that press box. But Ryan Day usually, in my opinion, lets us know how much he thinks of the opponent based on how he talks about the team's performance at the end of the game. For instance, if he would have come in and been a little negative in this 34-16 win, I would have thought he didn't think too much of the opponent because he felt like they should have beat him by more, should have performed better. But the fact that he was talking about the Buckeyes' performance in this way, and you won 34-16 in a game that was a little clunky, lets me know that he wasn't kidding, wasn't blowing smoke on Tuesday when he was talking about throw the results of that Indiana game out. This is a really good team. He really believes that. And they certainly didn't look like a bad team at all. They have a lot of things going for them. That's a team that realistically, honestly, still has a shot at the playoffs. I think it's a decent shot, and we'll talk about that in a few. But of course, we know you got a different team every Saturday. And that damn Indiana game was probably the worst thing that could have happened going into this game for our expectations, right? It was never going to live up to our expectations, no matter what Ohio State did, because they weren't going to win by 53. They're just not playing like that this year. They never would have put up that many points in a million years. Against Indiana, Illinois had a ton of injuries in that game. And there might have been some just flat out giving up towards the end of the game. So that game was always going to skew the result, however we felt about this coming out of it. But they bounced back to beat USC and to gain that 17th ranking in the country. And it was legit, man. That's a good team. So let's go over this game with the good and then the not so good. A ranked win on the road, always the good. And that is until the game, the final big road test of the year. We looked at the schedule at the beginning of the year. You had Washington as a big road test. You had Illinois. You passed them both. I think the next one is Purdue. And then you got the game. Buckeyes got a lot of home games here to end the year. Halfway through now. We are halfway through the season, which means next week we'll do a couple of different halfway through kind of reviews on a couple of things. But Illinois now will not be ranked after the Buckeyes beat them. They've got Washington next. They got to go to Washington. If they beat Washington, their final 4 games, Rutgers, Maryland, who's better this year, Wisconsin, and the Nerds, which means they got a realistic shot of going 10-2 if they beat Washington. Washington destroyed Rutgers last night on a Friday night. Damon Williams had 500 total yards. The guy that Ohio State totally shut down and made inconsequential had 500 yards. Amazing. And it makes Ohio State's performance look even that much better against Washington. So really, it's kind of a win-win next week, whoever wins that game. But Illinois could potentially get to the playoffs is the point here. This is a good team. I actually think that the fact Ohio State didn't blow them out by a ton bolsters their resume, because a lot of people were saying that Indiana loss was so bad, it's going to disqualify them from playoff contention, even at 10-2. But this one now kind of lends credence to the fact that it was just one of those days and they were really dinged up against Indiana. Now, that's the first good of the game. The second, no sacks given up on Julian Sayin. Some of this has to do with him. That dude's got great mobility in the pocket. He really feels the pressure, and he doesn't escape too early. He gives it time to develop. If he's got to roll, he rolls, and he's got the athleticism to get out of there. But the Buckeyes offensive line, pass protection has been fantastic all year. I think there's 2 sacks given up on the year. Something great like that. And that's fantastic. The defense only gave up 47 yards on the ground to Illinois. 47 yards, 1.7 yards a carry. And the rush defense has been an area that a lot of people have been concerned about. Not today. The rush defense was excellent, 1.7 yards a carry. We will take any day of the week. And the defense forced 3 turnovers. The first one, Jermaine Matthews tips a ball. Juckeye Peyton Pierce catches it, returns it. Good job by Peyton. Great job by Jermaine. The second one, Caden McDonald rips it out of the running back's hands. And my gosh, was it hard to watch that replay as he kind of fell on top of the kid's leg, and it looked like it was going to be a bad injury, but he was walking later on, so hopefully he's okay. And then finally, Jermaine comes in on a blitz, forces a fumble. Caden Curry recovers it. So 3 turnovers. The Buckeyes did not have any of their own. 3 turnovers, and all 3 of those turnovers, sometimes you get lucky with the turnover. Quarterback throws a bad ball. Not the case here. These were forced turnovers by that defense. They forced them. And that's tremendous because they've been great so far, but they've been great without the advantage of getting some turnovers. If this is a sign of things to come, that would be fantastic. But always good when you can win the turnover battle. Extra good when it's your defense that actually forces it and it's not just an error by the offense. So that was fantastic. The Buckeyes now, I think Julian's saying 3 straight games without a turnover. I think it's been since Ohio, since he threw an interception. He had the 2 turnovers that day. So fantastic news there. We saw a kickoff return today. Brandon Innes, 37-yard kickoff return, and we don't see kickoff returns often. The fact that he took it out was great. Loved seeing him take it out, and then that he got 37 yards. Another great thing we saw today, the involvement, again, for the second week in a row of Max Clare and B.I. together in the short passing game. And I think in a way we should kind of look at the 2 of those guys together. Max Clare, we thought was going to be maybe this big of a part of the offense from the very beginning. And Jeremiah said this week, when he first came, he didn't have that dog in him. They had to get it in him. And he trained with Jeremiah. It just feels like he's got a little longer. It wasn't going to come in and just be ready to roll right off the rip. But now it seems like he is getting his feel for it. 6 receptions last week, 4 receptions this week. Brandon Innes had 2 receptions this week, I think 3 last week. So the 2 of them moving together. And I know a lot of people would like to see somebody else get another shot in the slot, but it's pretty clear that they just aren't going to be utilizing that slot wide receiver this year a ton in the way they're going to run the offense. And maybe somebody else could do better. Maybe not. I know BI blocks really well, and he is a captain and a leader. So there's certainly value to that. But I thought BI played a good game overall. Thought Max Clare did as well. The two of them combined had 52 yards, which unfortunately were just about a third of Julian's yards on the day passing. We saw Jeremiah get into what we've seen Carnell do, which is now kind of becoming the absolute automatic first down for Ohio State. And that is that quick 10-yard out where those two just extend those long bodies with the tippy toes right inside bounds. And Julian saying with the accuracy to put it right to those extended hands. It is flawless when they run this. And we saw two today. We saw Carnell do it. We saw Jeremiah do it. I love it. One of them, Julian saying from the opposite hash, it looked like such a long throw on a rope. Beautiful. I love seeing that. Not a huge game from Jeremiah. He had something like 58 yards, but he did get a touchdown. And the two of them combined, Carnell and Jeremiah, 14 total targets. The rest of the team, I think it was 13 total targets. So like a good even split there, 50-50 between those two as far as who Julian's throwing it to and the rest of the team. Ohio State in the red zone turned it around. They started off rough, and you end up the game with 6 total trips in the red zone. Out of those 6 total trips, they scored 4 touchdowns. That's 66%. They want it to be 75. So below the stated goal that Ryan Day just cued us in last week was his stated goal. He's never said that before, but he wants 75% touchdowns executed in the red zone. And they got 4 out of 6. Started off rough, so they turned it around, which was pretty good to see. What else? You want to see your stars come through on defense, and boy, did they ever. Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese, Caleb Downs, these 3 all had a great game. 10 tackles and 8 solo tackles led the way, Sonny Styles. Arvell Reese, 9 tackles, 8 solo, 1.5 sack. Caleb Downs, 9 tackles, 7 solo. That's fantastic. And then Caden Curry, who has led the way on the line this year, had a sack, and it was a great sack. His 6th sack of the year. Kenyatta Jackson with a half sack. Was it a half sack and 1.5 TFLs? I think that's what he had. A good game by Kenyatta. He had a couple of really nice tackles, made a couple of good plays, and he certainly flashed in a game that we thought he might not even play. And then Jermaine Matthews, who probably the defensive MVP of the day, with he comes into the day, has to play nickel. Lorenzo Styles not playing on the day, so Jermaine moves to nickel. Devin Sanchez comes in at corner for his first ever start, and Jermaine forces 2 turnovers, playing a position he doesn't even play. So fantastic game by Jermaine. Devin Sanchez starting in his first ever game, facing a really good quarterback, and Luke Altmaier smartly on the very first play of the game goes right after the freshman. Devin had good coverage. He was going after him anyway. Devin made the play, broke it up. Now, he didn't have a great game, but everybody's got to start somewhere. And I thought that was a great play to start it off. He's got some teachable moments. He's going to be a star. And, there were a couple spots there where he's got to clean some things up. I'm sure he will. At 3 Tech, we saw Jason Moore in for the first time today in some backup reps in a couple of big moments too. And at first glance, he looked pretty solid. The huge plus that we saw today was Ty Malone. Ty Malone, who in the last 3 games has played successively better each game. This one was kind of a breakout game. 3 tackles. He flashed several times. The one on the goal line was excellent, really heady play. And that is fantastic to see because Edric Houston did not play today. So it was up to Ty Malone, Jarquez Carter, and Jason Moore. Jarquez didn't get in. It was all Jason, but as far as the second guy, but Ty Malone played a lot of snaps, played very well. That's huge for the development of this defense. And Will Smith, not sure on his snap count, but he again stood out, not in tackles, but just holding his spot, doing his job, clogging up space, did a really good job. So that is the good And obviously the 47 yards adjusted on the ground is what they gave up. 67 sack adjusted on the ground is what they gave up to the Illinois rushing attack, which is just a great number. I think 265-ish is about what Altmaier passed for, which, he threw 44 passes. So that's not a whole lot. Unfortunate today that we didn't get to see Edric Houston because he was out with an injury. I don't know what injury it was, but he had come on last week, had the best game of the year, hoping to see that double up this year and build on that. This week and build on that. Didn't get to see that, so that kind of sucks. Julian Sayin, I thought for the circumstances as a freshman, second road game against a good team. This team ranked even higher. Washington was unranked. But all in all, 70% completion percentage. I thought he was really good, made a couple of really nice throws on the sidelines. But he did what he had to do to keep moving the ball. Just 166 yards, and that sucks. Now, last week or 2 weeks ago at Washington, we talked about pushing the ball down the field, and it was the day of the game. Well, he didn't push the ball down the field because Washington took it away. And then the all-22 comes out, and we see, no, there was opportunities. They didn't take them, and I don't think it was Julian. I think he was instructed not to take them, and that's fine. You go out, tough place to play. You don't want to turn the ball over. You did what you needed to do. You got the win. Then we see against Minnesota, the average depth of target was 11 yards down the field. I mean, they pushed the pace, pushed the ball. A little bit of the turtling up against Washington. So we'll find out when the all-22 comes out how many opportunities there might have been. But it sure felt like they kept everything in front of them. And that is fine. You win the game 34-10. But it doesn't help your running game at all. And I just feel like you need to get some positive momentum in the running game. You certainly didn't work that out today. The Buckeyes give up their first red zone touchdown, and they were so close to not allowing it. They stopped the first one. Illinois comes back down, and they're so close. Sonny Styles tackles Altmaier at like the 1-inch line on a beautiful play. 4th and goal, and Brett Bielema has got to pull out some garbage trick 2-point conversion play. No! To end the Buckeyes streak of no touchdowns allowed in the red zone. And that sucked. To lose it on some nonsense, garbage trick, BS crap, 2-point conversion, overtime looking play. That sucks. Julian and Carnell Tate on camera getting caught in a little spat. I love it. I'm sure there's going to be some people who are going to point that out and say there's issues on the team, and that's not good to see that. I thought it was great because you get a little spat like that, and it helps you address issues. You blow up, and then now you get to the heart of it. Is there a problem? What do we need to work on? Ultimately, that's always a good thing, unless you see it amongst a lot of guys all over the place. Josh Padilla, 2 weeks in a row, Josh Padilla has earned himself snaps at right guard. That is the first 3 games of the year. Tegra Shabola those 15 snaps were going to Ethan Onyanwa. The last 2 games against Washington, it was all Tegra. Then the last 2 games, Josh Padilla has earned those snaps at right guard, which is great. It's great for the future. He's going to be the starting center at some point. So now he's out there getting some run at right guard, and he's earned it, and that's awesome. You can also look at it the opposite way. We'll do that later on this week. Now, the glaring weakness of this team so far on the year and today is the running game. And Ryan Day, when asked about it, didn't really have much to say about it. I mean, he said he needed to watch the film. I mean, because it almost felt like, and he said too, the offensive line had a lot of push at times. Now, certainly we saw plays get blown up, missed assignments by the offensive line. Other times it felt like it was blocked up good and it just wasn't working. So ultimately, everything's great. You win 34-10, 16, and the Buckeyes are 6-0 halfway through the year. There are some things to work on that Tyler Bowen and Brian Hartline and Brian Day and Keenan Bailey need to get together and figure out what in the heck do we need to do to make this running game work better, because the offensive line is full of dogs and you've got a dog in Bo Jackson, what do we got to do to make this work? It's got to be better, because they can't win a national championship with a running game like that. They can't. Now, can it get better? I think so, because I believe in that offensive line, and I believe in this coaching staff, and I believe in Bo a lot, and I believe in Isaiah West as well. And I do want to say that even though James Peoples had a horrible line with like 7 yards on 5 carries, I want to say I think 3 of his carries, he was getting met in the backfield, and the same thing went with Isaiah. So just not good enough, man. I don't know what the deal is, but it's got to get better. Now, we are now halfway through the season, and of course, we will talk much more about this as the week goes on. I'll be down in Florida next week. Of course, I'll still do the show. Might not be as long as shows, but certainly I'll have some episodes out. And we'll talk now that we are halfway through the season, where we stand here, where we stand there. We're going to do our transfer portal player review compared to last year, and a lot of other stuff. So check me out this week. I'll talk to you guys soon. Appreciate you for joining me. Go Bucks.